today's presentation is from our partner, AnswerModules. And before I hand it over to Paolo, I just wanted to remind you that if you do have a question at any time during the session, we ask that you put it into the Q&A panel. And we have some folks that are keeping an eye on that. But anything we can't answer during the session will be held until the end during the Q&A portion of our presentation, and we'll be sure that you get an answer to those questions. And last but not least, we do provide a link to the recording of this session if you have to leave early or you just want something to refer back to once we've concluded. If you go to our opentext.com/events page, you'll be able to see not only those events that are coming up, where you might have found this webinar, but there's also a tab on that same page that says recorded, and you'll be able to refer to the link to this recording as well as to any associated resources. All right, I will stop talking and hand it over to Paolo Ramoldi.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Gretchen. So hello, everyone. I'm Paolo. I take care of the sales and partnership alliances here at AnswerModules. And with me today is also Patrick. He's our CEO and also heading up the R&D team, and also Fabio Cristiani, our CTO. So again, thanks from our end on your participation. And the purpose of today's webinar is essentially to provide all of you with an introduction to one of our latest innovations, and that is Mobile WebForms for Content Suite and Extended ECM. So before we go into the good stuff, I have to leave this up, I guess, just for a couple of seconds. And so to provide a little bit more of context to today's discussion, I want to take just a quick minute to introduce our core solution, Module Suite. And I like to introduce it as this essentially is related to Mobile WebForms and what we'll be seeing on later today. So Module Suite is a fully integrated add-on module for Content Suite and the Extended ECM platform. Now, I'm going to use the acronym CSP from now on. So when you hear me say CSP, obviously I'm talking about Content Suite and Extended ECM as well. Now, the Module Suite is actually made up of various components. What you're seeing on the screen is essentially the Module Suite is made of the components that aren't in light blue, just to put it very, very briefly. So the Module Suite, it's used by quite a wide range of type of customers, size of customers, etc., to essentially speed up and simplify the creation of tailored solutions on top of CSP, with really objective of meeting their specific use case requirements, their specific business cases, their specific business needs, etc. So this effectively allows customers to enhance the capabilities of their CSP platform, but also extend the way they utilize it and essentially extend its reach. And before we go deeper into Mobile WebForms, you know, the Module Suite, its main areas of usage, it includes forms, smart automations, facilitating integrations, workflow enhancements, and much more. So we'll just be seeing the tip of the iceberg today. Now, but again, for today, our goal is to provide you a deeper understanding of the Mobile WebForms component. So on that note, let me introduce Mobile WebForms, and the way I like to do this is to essentially use the why, what, and how approach. So why does it exist? Essentially, it exists to allow CSP WebForms to be utilized anywhere and on any device. And this is a business need that was coming from a host of different industries and for quite a while. So this was definitely one of the things that we saw that there was a need for, and so we were able to actually deliver on this business need. So what it is, well, as I mentioned, it's a new feature for Module Suite. So it's not a separate product. Keep in mind that this is part of the Module Suite. So if you have or you will have the Module Suite, then you'll have access to Mobile WebForms. And how is Mobile WebForms possible? What kind of, how it's built on, what it's built on, what it works on. Well, it's possible thanks to our ability to leverage obviously the Module Suite as well as the AppWorks Gateway technology and functionality. So that's just a very quick intro of what Mobile WebForms is all about. Now, but in terms of what's the key benefits? What are the key features? What am I going to get out of Mobile WebForms if I'm utilizing them? Well, first and foremost, the ability to tackle offline scenarios. So utilizing forms even when the user is offline. So essentially, if I'm filling out a form while I'm offline, then I have connectivity. I just have one tap, and that form is automatically submitted and synchronized back on to CSP. And this is probably the feature request that really drove the creation of Mobile WebForm. And the implication of offline forms is really the ability to provide web forms to the workers within your organization that are operating out in the field, and sometimes they don't have connectivity. So thereby, it essentially allows you to effectively and seamlessly include these workers and the data that they generate within any of your processes. So really eliminating that barrier of including those set of employees that don't always have access to an internet connection, but they do require that they are required to fill out some sort of forms. Now, the other key benefit is really how we can start collecting data. So that the information that can be generated in form, it doesn't need a form on a mobile. It doesn't need to be just the text, let's say, from the form fields, but we can also start utilizing the device's native tools to collect really rich content and data. So for example, I can use my device to take specific, to log specific GPS coordinates. I can use my device's camera to obviously take images and attach them to my form, or I can also take a video or an audio recording. Obviously, these tools, they really help drive along the process and also the decision making, because I'm giving eyes, I'm providing what I'm seeing out on the field to whoever is in the back office, pretty much seamlessly. Now, but so gathering the data, I'd say, is just half of the story. Now, what I see as the key innovation is really how we can use the data once it's back on CSP. And this is because through a configurable endpoint and the capabilities of Module Suite, we can control and automate what happens to that data once it's back on CSP. So some practical examples, and we'll be seeing more later on, is I could take that data gathered from my mobile form and programmatically generate a document, or I could start sending that data to other systems as well. So I could have a whole host of actions that can actually be accomplished using that data once it's pulled into CSP. From a distribution perspective, what we're able to do is, and this is thanks to the ability to leverage the AppWorks Gateway technology, is that we can fully manage the forms lifecycle. And we can also go ahead and implement a very fine-grained distribution mechanism. I could send out my forms, I could distribute my forms to specific user groups, etc. And we can also go ahead and govern aspects related to a form's security, so forms data security. I can also go ahead and wipe out a form on a specific device if needed. And again, this is through our abilities and the abilities of by leveraging the AppWorks technology. So in order to provide a good insight into Mobile WebForm, our plan for today is to walk you through and do a live demo later on of one of the many business cases that can be implemented thanks to Mobile WebForms. Now, the business case that we're going to be using as an example is an environmental impact inspection for a railway company. And this business case is actually split into 3 different use cases, each involving different personas and different application entities. So in terms of the personas, we have 4 of them. We have the inspector. Essentially, his role is to inspect the railway lines and submit a report if anything is wrong. Then we have a manager who's analyzing these reports and assigning work tasks. Then we have a foreman who is heading up the team to actually conduct the required maintenance works. And we have an application owner. And the application owner is part of the business, which is responsible for maintaining this environmental impact inspection process. Now, the inspector, as well as the foreman, they are personas that are operating on the field, while the manager and application owner, there are personas that are operating in the office, so in the back office. In terms of the entities, the application entities that we'll be seeing throughout the 3 use cases, we have 2 mobile web forms. So we have a form used by an inspector, and we also have a form utilized by the foreman, respectively inspection and work order forms. We're using Connected Workspaces. Connected Workspaces for the specific railway line, and also Connected Workspaces for the environmental report that is generated by the inspector. Then we have an application dashboard utilized by the manager. And last but not least, we have an application workflow that is happening in the background, and we'll be seeing this a little bit more later on. So the first part of the process is essentially the periodic on-site inspection of the track. So we're going to take on the persona of the inspector in this case. So before leaving the office, the inspector, he's already downloaded the relevant mobile web form to his device, and then he headed out to the railway line that he needed to inspect. Now, upon his inspection, he finds that there's been a slight oil spill near one of the tracks. So, as due to his role and company policy, he'll need to generate a report so that then the process, the maintenance process can start, so that this oil spill can be fixed. Now, to create this environmental impact report, he'll be using his mobile device with the form already loaded. So he'll be filling out the form from his device, and he's going to also be utilizing the device native native capabilities to capture images of that oil spill, but also provide a very precise GPS location of where that issue is located. Because obviously, if I need to go and do maintenance work on a railway line, I don't want to go up and down the whole railway line just to find that fault. I want to have a very precise location so I can pinpoint it and go to that right away. Now, once that form is completed, he'll submit it directly from his device, and this is where things really start to get more interesting. And thanks to the configurable endpoint on CSP, and thanks to the module suite's capabilities, the submission of that form will actually trigger 2 automations directly on CSP. So we are going to have 2 automations happening, which are also happening in parallel. So first and foremost, we're going to be creating a new connected workspace for the environmental impact report. And we're also going to automatically associate that new connected workspace to a pre-existing connected workspace for the railway line. So in essence, we're creating a brand new connected workspace and automatically associating it to an existing connected workspace. And again, in parallel, the automation that's happening is that the manager will receive a notification that a new report has come in, and so she'll need to go ahead and look at that and manage it accordingly. So this is the first use case, and again, this is all happening on the field. Now, for the second use case, it's happening back in the office, and it's now up to the manager to review that report and actually assign someone to clean up that oil spill. So the manager has access to a dedicated dashboard on CSP, which she'll utilize to review the report. And from that dashboard, she'll also be able to assign someone directly assign someone, directly assign a foreman to conduct that maintenance task. And just like we saw in the previous use case, an automation has also been implemented in this scenario. And in this case, it's automation that's all happening within CSP. Once that the maintenance task has been assigned to the foreman, the automations that are happening is that the relevant work order form, so work order mobile web form, is being automatically pushed to the foreman's device. And in parallel, we're starting a new workflow. So we're initiating the workflow that's going to govern this maintenance task. And this workflow will actually be, let's say, invisible to the various personas. So what I mean by this is that they won't be receiving workflow steps notification, but rather that their actions will actually progress that workflow. And now for the last part of the process, we're going back out into the field. So in this case, we're taking on the role of the foreman, who's going to be heading up a team of workers to clean up that oil spill. Now, before leaving the office, the foreman has already downloaded the work order form to his device, but unfortunately, when he got out to work site, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no 4G, there isn't even 3G connectivity, so he has no connectivity on his device. However, this lack of connectivity, thanks to Mobile WebForms, is not a problem, and his team can actually proceed to conduct their various tasks while the foreman fills out the work order form. So now let's say that the job at hand is done, everything's cleaned up, so they're going back to the office. Now on their way back, the foreman notices that he now again has 4G connectivity on his device, so he reestablishes a connection and he submits the completed form. And just like in the first use case, we have again an automation part that is happening when we are submitting the form. So in this case, the automation that is being triggered, again, there's two of them, and they're happening in parallel. So first, the workflow is automatically proceeding to the next step, or it could also be concluded. These are all business logics that can be implemented. And in parallel, the manager will be receiving an email notification that the work order has been completed. So again, this is another example of how I can utilize my mobile forms, even in an offline scenario, and then when I upload, or better yet, submit my form, there's actually some smart automations happening in the background, taking care of some very, let's say, high-value tasks that can bring additional value and ease the entire process. Now, before I hand things off to Patrick for the demonstration of this entire process, I want to take a look at one last use case. Now, this is a use case that's not strictly related to the operational part of the environmental impact inspection, but it's rather more related to the back office part. So let's imagine that the manager is requesting a change to the work order form. So now I'm in the role of the application owner. Once I receive the requirements, I can actually make the changes in a matter of minutes. And this is because thanks to the tools that we bring to the table, all I need to do is make changes to the form view, and then update that application package. Once that application package has been updated and submitted, a new version of the work order form will actually be pushed to the device, to the device of the relevant foreman. So when the foreman opens up his device and his application, he'll be notified. He'll see that there is a new version of that form available for download and available for use. So on that note, I'd like to hand things off to Patrick for the actual demonstration. And again, we'll be seeing the demonstration from the inspector, from the manager, from the foreman, and from the application owner's point of view as well.
Thank you, Paolo. And okay, so first of all, I have on my screen I have both content server as well as my iPhone, and on my let me try to stop and reshare the screen. Okay, so I have both my content server as well as the iPhone screen available. On my iPhone, I already installed the AppWorks application. So what I'm going to do is to log into the AppWorks application. Bye. And on my AppWorks application, I have already installed a bunch of applications developed with Mobile WebForms. So the inspection application as well as the work order application. So what I'm going to do is basically, as an inspector, I'm going to open my inspector application, see if there's anything that I can do. And there's basically no predefined task assigned to me. So what I can do from this application is to create a new task myself. So what I'm going to do is to open the form. So this form has been created on content server, and later on I will show you how to do that. For the time being, so just have a look at the form so we can have different kind of information displayed, different kind of widgets. So we can have, for example, a related date of inspection to be recorded. We can have GPS location that is automatically gathered from the device, and we can have other information displayed in the form, different kind of widgets, and we can have also relationship among different questions that are displayed in the form. So for example, I can have a relationship between these two questions, and the second one is displayed only if the first is equal to yes. So what I can also do, when I created my form, I had the ability to decide to export some of the documents that I have on my platform in order to make them available to my users whenever they are in the field. So this list of documents, they are available for download if needed, and they are defined as part of the configuration for the form that I've exported it. Going back to my fields, I can also have fields that have multiplicity higher than 1, so I can have multiple dates, and I can record them and add different dates. So I can have, for example, an inspection on July, an inspection on June. So once I'm filling my form, I can, for example, decide to add among the attachments a picture. So I will take a picture directly out of my window. So this is the beautiful scene. And I can use that picture and add it to the attachments on my form. I can back on my fields and save it. So now basically the record is ready to be synchronized back on Content Suite. So so far all the information is stored on my device and locally, so this form can also be utilized offline, of course. So what I'm going to do is to synchronize it on Content Server. So the system is now sending the data as well as all the attachment that I've modified. And the synchronization is completed, so again, I have nothing to do yet, and I just can create a new record if needed. As Paul explained you, two things happened. So basically an email was sent to our manager, and a Connected Workspaces was created. So this email informed the manager that a new inspection report is ready and is waiting for his review. So direct link will open directly the inspection record. So we can go on the inspection in the Connected Workspace and see what this Connected Workspace is about. So the information related with the form that we have submitted, as well as the attachment, have been moved to the Connected Workspaces. So we have, among the categories, we have all the information that was submitted. So with the incident ID, who performed the inspection, and the GPS location information. And we also have obviously the attachment. And so from this page we can move to the next step. So we can assign a task to one of our employee in order to review the status of this site. So what we can do from here, again, through a beautiful web form that is embedded in the Smart View, providing us a very easy way for managing tasks, is to assign a task to one of our employees. So say I want to assign it to John Smith, and I wanted to perform this review on next week. So as John Smith, I can access my mobile device, and so what basically I did was to start a new workflow, and the task has been assigned to John Smith. A form task was generated, and the information has been pushed to the remote, so the mobile web form of our worker. So what I can do is to open the worker application and check if there's anything that I have to do. And this is the incoming task related to the connected workspaces that we have been working to. So as a worker, I can access the information that was exported, but also the documents that have been attached to the connected workspace. So this application has been configured to provide me the access to all the documents that were uploaded in the connected workspace. In fact, I can just upload a bunch of documents here, and this document will be basically available among the attachments of my application. So here they are, together with the original image that was taken by the inspector. So as an inspector, I have a form that is close to the original one, but is just similar, not exactly the same. I can save my work, and again, I can have a new record that is pending synchronization, and what I can do now is just to synchronize it back to Content Server. So going back to Content Server, I can reload the status and see that the workflow has been completed and the information has been reconciled and the workflow has been terminated. So what now is, what if I need to apply change to the application? So what if I need to modify anything in the application? As I told you, the application has been created through this set of tools that are part of Module Suite directly from within Content Suite. So what I can do is to access my application builder. So application builder is a very simple application developed with Module Suite and beautiful web forms. So I can open my form, and I can review the list of applications that I'm managing with my tool, and I can see that we have both the application for dispatchers as well as the application for the workers. So what I can do is to edit this application, and the application configuration basically offers you the possibility to create a new application specifying a name, a description, the endpoint that you want to utilize, which is basically a content script derived from a template that is part of the product, and the version of the AppWorks that you are supporting, the version of your application, and if your application will support offline scenarios, the form that you want to export, and the view that you want to utilize. So the changes that I can do very quickly is, for example, I can change something in the view. So this is the view that we were using in this application. So let me create very quickly another task so that we can see the view while we are editing it. So say next month, reschedule it. Here it is. So this is exactly the view. So what we can do is, for example, I can change this title. So inspection form at OT live webinar. So I can apply these changes. I can, for example, decide that the GPS position, I do not want to display the information into a map. So I can just save this information, save my view, and go back to my application manager. So what I can do now is to change the application identifier number, saying that is a minor change, and rebuild my application. So the application is built out of the form and an application template, and you have access to both these things. So the application is building, and once the application is built, you have direct access to the application package. So what you can do now is to either download it and manually upload it on your AppWorks Gateway, or you can use this button to directly push it to your AppWorks Gateway. So since I've updated it, as you can see on my iPhone, I received information that this application should be updated. So what I can do is just update the application on the iPhone, go back and see that we have basically changed the title, and the information related with the GPS is no longer displayed as a map. So, and the other thing that I can change in this mobile web application is not just the form, but I can change basically everything, because whenever you create an application, the source code of the template is cloned, and so you have access to it and you can change whatever you want. So say for example that I want to change this image here. So what I have to do is just to have access to it, for example to the versions, and I can add from here a new version. And so we'll add my new version, and now go back to my application and say I want to create a new version of this application and rebuild it. And once again, go back to my applications, and I will push this application to the AppWorks Gateway directly. I can refresh the screen, reload the application on my iPhone, and as you see now, the logo has been changed.
Okay. Thanks, Patrick, for that demonstration. I guess we can call it pretty much an end-to-end demonstration in which we saw the actual usage of the process, but also how we can go ahead and utilize our tools to modify the form as well as the application. Gretchen, could you provide me the ability to share my screen? Just have one last slide to share. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. Oh. Okay, just before we go to the Q&A session, I want to introduce ourselves. It's a little bit of a late introduction, but if you haven't heard of AnswerModules before, we are a technology company. We're focused on providing solutions, or yet innovation and innovative solutions dedicated to the CSP space. And again, our objective is to really allow organizations to extend and enhance the capabilities of their CSP and extended ECM platforms. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning, the flagship product we have is Module Suite. What we saw today, Mobile WebForms, is part of the Module Suite. It's a feature of it. And we also have some extensions, which are separate products that obviously are built with the Module Suite and work with Module Suite. And these are extension for Smart UI, and as well as a connector for DocuSign. So being able to integrate DocuSign and CSP in a much more streamlined and easier fashion. Now, our customer base, or the organizations we work with, they have a very wide range, both in terms of size, company type, company industry, technical resources that these companies have, etc. My saying is, as long as an organization has Content Suite and Extended ECM, they are looking to get more out of it. They're looking to build solutions on top of that platform. Then they are a good fit for our solutions. We are actually an OpenText partner. So we've been a technology partner since 2014. We are on the official price list with the module suite, as well as the DocuSign connector since 2016 overall. And we've recently, well, back in April, we were awarded with the Innovation / Technology Award for the EMEA region for this year. Now, I'm just going to leave up my contact details. If you have any follow-up questions or would like some more information, feel free to reach out to me. We will be at Enterprise World in less than 2 weeks. So please stop by our pod. It'll be number 245. We'll be glad to meet face-to-face and take any questions there as well. So I guess we can leave the floor open to Q&A at this point.
Great. We do have a question in the chat, but I just want to remind everybody that if you have a question, you can put it into the chat area or the Q&A portion of your WebEx interface. First question, is the mobile form able to send the structured data to a third-party application?
I'll leave that for Patrick.
Yes, as we have seen, so you have access to the full capabilities offered by Module Suite. So and in the endpoint, as we have shown in one of the applications, we were creating a connected workspace as well as sending out a custom notification message. In the other application, we were just sending on a workflow, and so that is definitely something that is it is feasible. And thanks to the awesome flexibility offered by Content Script.
Okay, is there any wait, hang on, let me maximize this so I can read it better. Is there any integration with Content Server Mobile?
No, so there are two separate things. So we have used the same technology, so Content Server Mobile is itself an AppWorks application. So what you are doing with our solution is creating simpler application that works exactly as Content Server Mobile, but they are completely isolated. The idea is to really create a very tailored solution dedicated to a specific task, as we have seen. You have the flexibility to create complex solution with mobile web forms, but the idea is, again, to have basically either one or two screens per application, typically related to a single form, and most of the logic probably relies still on the Content Server workflows or the integration and the Module Suite scripting engine or the other capabilities offered by beautiful web forms on Content Server.
Okay, let's see. Can you provide some examples of time and cost associated with some forms?
Well, creating a mobile web form is fairly easy. So it is once you have typically created the form on Content Server, as you have seen, the only thing you have to do is to create the kind of experience you want to provide to your users on their mobile devices. So it's really a matter of drag and drop widgets and configure them in terms of what you want to do, etc. As always with Module Suite, you never start from scratch, so there's examples, there's predefined widgets that you can utilize, there's a library widget that is growing dedicated to mobile web forms, etc. So in terms of costs, a typical project related with this kind of application can range from anywhere from 5 to 20 days of work, considering complex integration as part of probably a workflow or business logic to be put in place on Content Server side. For simpler application that just, for example, checklists that are creating a PDF document, for example, to be archived on Content Server, we are probably more on the 5-day side than the 20.
Okay. How do you manage table key lookups attributes when the mobile is offline?
So whenever you create the form and you exported it basically to be utilizing on the mobile device, you can decide which portion of information you want to export together with the form. So obviously you can't have access to a live data source, but what you can do whenever you export a form is to decide that part of that data source to be exported together with the form. So in the case of a table key lookup, or a drop-down or some other kind of information, you can decide to export that part of the information together with the form so that it will be available for the user even when they are offline.
Okay, waiting to see if we have any additional, oh yes. Is it licensed by users?
Yes, so as per Module Suite, so this is basically a component of Module Suite, so Module Suite is named licensed users.
Okay. And while we're waiting, I will remind you again that you can go to our opentext.com/events page, and within the next 48 hours, there'll be a link to this recording on the recorded tab or the recorded section of that URL, so you can refer back to that. Okay. How do you license external users?
So in this case, there's basically no external users because the users that are accessing the system are still content server users.
We'll give you a few more moments here to think if you have a question. If you do have a question after the fact, you've got Paolo's contact information right there in front of you. You can always contact us at partners@opentext.com if you think of a question. All right. Is there any integration with Script Console?
Not really. So again, the endpoint is basically that we are utilizing is a REST API backed by content script directly available through content server, and is proxied by the AppWorks Gateway. So there is no Script Console is not involved in this scenario. It can be. So eventually you can design your application in order to use maybe Script Console, deploying in DMZ to proxy some kind of services if needed, in order not to have access directly to content server. But let me say, the default template application that we provide utilizes directly an endpoint exposed by content server.
Okay. All right. I am not seeing any additional questions. Is there anything you'd like to say to conclude?
No. Again, thanks everyone for your time. I hope this was valuable. Again, if there's any further questions, we're here. And if you'll be in Toronto, it'll be a pleasure to meet in person.
Great. Very good. Thank you so much to Paolo and to Patrick and to AnswerModules for their presentation today. Thank you so much to everyone who attended, and we look forward to hearing from you again and hopefully seeing you in Toronto. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.